Hello and welcome to another episode of PolicyCast. I am Dr. Gaurav Ghosh, Associate Partner and Principal Transfer Pricing Economist at Grant Thornton, Bharat. Today, I'm joined by Fatema Hunaid, Asia Pacific Transfer Pricing Leader and Bengaluru Office Managing Partner at Grant Thornton, Bharat. And we are going to discuss the OECD's proposed revisions to Chapter VII of the Transfer Pricing Guidelines, particularly in the context of intra-group services. This is an area that has long been subject to debate and controversy, from the benefit test and management fees to allocation keys and documentation. The proposed revisions bring important clarifications while raising interesting questions around how these principles will work in practice, particularly for emerging markets like India. Let's dive in.
To set the context for our listeners, let's take a step back and revisit the role that Chapter 7 plays in the broader OECD transfer pricing framework. It's worth reminding ourselves why Chapter 7 matters. The OECD transfer pricing guidelines are designed to help ensure that the related party transactions are priced in line with the arm's length principle. Over time, they've become the foundation of transfer pricing systems around the world, including in India. One area that has consistently generated controversy is the intra-group services. Why do you think that is, Gaurav?
Hi, Fatima. Thanks for giving us the context. Why intra-group services? It's because intra-group services are everywhere. Multinational groups routinely centralize functions such as IT, finance, legal, HR, procurement, and strategic support, and then charge those costs across the group. As business models have become more integrated, these transactions have become larger, more frequent, and more complex.
And in India, that has translated into recurring disputes around management fees, the benefit test, shareholder activities, allocation keys, and documentation. The challenge is that these issues often require judgment, which means taxpayers and tax authorities can reach very different conclusions from the same facts.
Indeed, and that's what makes these revisions so timely. The OECD isn't fundamentally changing the rules. Instead, it's providing additional guidance in precisely those areas that have generated the most uncertainty over the years. If that leads to greater clarity and consistency, it could help reduce disputes and make outcomes more predictable for both taxpayers and tax administrations.
Exactly. So let's look at what OECD is proposing and what those changes could mean in practice from an Indian transfer pricing perspective.
Indeed. A striking change is that the revised Chapter 7 explicitly covers services that form part of the group's core business, not just support functions. Now, Fatima, why is that important?
Gaurav, because it reflects how multinational groups operate today. Shared services centers are no longer limited to accounting or HR. Groups increasingly centralize R&D, procurement, production support, marketing and supply chain activities, and all of these are beautifully coming together and are now referred to as Global Capability Centers or GCCs. The revised chapter acknowledges that reality and significantly broadens the potential application of Chapter 7. The benefit test is a commonly litigated issue. What do you see as the most important change in this regard, Gaurav?
Yes, Fatima, the formal recognition that we're evaluating expected benefit and not necessarily realized benefit. The revised guidance expressly states that a service may exist even where the anticipated benefit never materializes, provided the expectation was reasonable at the time the activity was performed. That's a very sound economic principle because businesses make decisions under uncertainty.
And that's consistent with how independent enterprises behave, isn't it? Companies regularly invest in projects that don't ultimately succeed. But this issue takes on particular importance in India. Transfer pricing officers frequently ask for evidence that a benefit was actually realized. The revised guidance may help shift the conversation, perhaps, back to what was reasonably expected when that decision was made.
The OECD also explicitly states that a loss-making entity can still receive a service. Economically, that seems quite obvious, yet disputes continue. Why do you think that is, Fatema?
No surprises there. Consider a subsidiary that makes losses in a given year. This subsidiary will nevertheless make payments to foreign-related parties for management cross-charges or debit notes from the regional headquarters. Indian transfer pricing officers often ask whether an independent enterprise would continue to bear those charges.
And that is where the revised guidance is useful. The OECD is making clear that the existence of a service and the profitability of the recipient are separate questions. A company can receive a benefit and still be loss-making because of market conditions, or competition, or startup costs, or other business factors.
One clarification I particularly welcome is the OECD's insistence that the benefit test and pricing must not be conflated.
Absolutely, Fatima. The benefit test answers whether a service exists. Pricing answers how much that service should cost. Historically, we've seen cases where tax authorities effectively deny the existence of a service because they disagree with the amount charged. The revised draft formally separates these analyses, which should improve analytical rigor. The revised guidance also clarifies that activities performed by senior management, even the CEO, are not automatically shareholder activities.
And that is one of the most practical changes in the draft. We often observe charges involving headquarters personnel being challenged. The OECD is effectively saying that job title is not the relevant test. What matters is the activity performed and who benefits from it, if one thinks about it. This change will put M&Es in a stronger position to defend management cross-charges.
Exactly, Fatima. A CEO may spend part of their time dealing with investor relations, likely a shareholder activity, and part of their time directing operational initiatives that benefit subsidiaries. Functional analysis remains critical.
Gaurav, let's now talk about allocation keys. Why do these generate so much controversy despite them being so readily available and applied for so many years?
Fatima, that's because allocation keys are simple proxies for expected benefit. The goal isn't mathematical perfection. The goal is a reasonable approximation of benefit that is measurable, relevant, and administratively practical. The OECD provides further guidance on this point and explicitly requests feedback from shareholders.
It seems to me that the matter may remain unsettled. Imagine a regional HR center allocating costs using headcount. One jurisdiction may have highly skilled engineers, while another may employ largely operational staff. Both use the same allocation key, but derive different levels of benefit. That's where the disputes often arise.
Indeed. Fatima, don't you think the OECD's discussion of on-call services is also interesting? It continues to recognize that mere availability can indeed create value.
And in my experience, this is particularly relevant foreign. A local affiliate may rarely use central cybersecurity, legal, regulatory, or even tax specialists. Yet, the ability to assess those resources during a crisis could be extremely valuable. The challenge is determining when standby capacity itself creates a benefit and when it does not. That's one area where additional examples could be helpful.
Indeed. One of the most significant technical changes in the revised guidelines is the explicit inclusion of the transactional profit split method for services.
I do agree. Historically, services were typically associated with cost plus approaches. The revised Chapter 7 acknowledges that some services involve unique know how, valuable intangibles, highly integrated operations, or shared risks. In those cases, profit split may be the most appropriate method.
Yes, that's particularly relevant for centralized R&D, advanced analytics, technology platforms, and other high-value service arrangements where both parties contribute unique and valuable inputs. And indeed, we are seeing these kinds of services also being rolled out in our vast Indian GCC ecosystem.
So let's start bringing this together for our listeners, shall we, Gaurav? If taxpayers take away only one practical message from the revised chapter, what should it be?
One practical message? I would say that message would be document the story contemporaneously. The new documentation section places significant emphasis on expected benefit, communications, deliverables, allocation methods, and, not to forget, supporting evidence. If taxpayers can explain what they expected to achieve, who benefited, and why the arrangement made commercial sense, they are in a far stronger position.
That's especially important for us since benefit test disputes often focus on evidence. Tax officers frequently request emails, reports, presentations, tickets, meeting records, and other proof that services were actually performed. The new documentation guidance should help create more consistency.
Right. I think we have discussed the salient points in the revised Chapter 7. Why don't we now look to close our discussion? So, Fatema, I will put this to you. If you had to summarize the revised Chapter 7 in one sentence, what would it be?
Well, the OECD is moving away the discussion from labels and towards substance. What activities were performed? Who benefited? What benefit was reasonably expected? And how that value should be reflected under the arm's length principle.
And from an economist's perspective, the revisions better reflect how businesses make decisions under uncertainty. The principles are largely familiar, but the framework is more coherent, more operational, and ultimately more likely to reduce disputes.
My hope is that the final guidance goes one step further and incorporates a few additional examples drawn from emerging market realities. That would help bridge the gap between principle and practice and make Chapter 7 of the OECD Transfer Pricing Guidelines even more useful for Indian taxpayers and tax officers. And while I say that, my hope is for the transfer pricing regulations worldwide. Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Gaurav.
That's a great way to look at it. From my perspective as well, the shift towards substance over form is perhaps one of the most important themes emerging from these revisions. Thank you, Fatema, for sharing your perspectives and helping us unpack what the proposed revisions to Chapter 7 could mean for multinational businesses, taxpayers, and tax administrations. As the OECD consultation process winds down, it will be interesting to see how the final guidance evolves and how these principles translate into practice, especially in India. Thank you for listening to PolicyCast. We'll be back with another conversation on the latest developments shaping tax, policy, and regulation.